Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be the first in my back to school series. This one's going to be more about meal planning for busy families as we're getting in to school starting. So this one's a little bit different, but it does apply to back to school. And honestly, it applies in general if you just need some tips for meal planning. And I have been trying for years to figure out something that actually works for me and my family, and this actually works. And this works no matter what time of year it is, and it works with 4 kids that eat, 2 being really little because we have a 2-year-old and a 7-month-old, as well as a 9 and a 12-year-old who are extremely picky. But this is probably the ultimate guide to meal planning for busy families. So if you want to find out all my tips and tricks and secrets, then just keep watching. Okay, so my first thing that I do, the first thing I did when I was starting to think about meal planning was honestly to just come up with a timeline. For me, it's like, what's the timeline of how often I want to meal plan, plus how often it actually works with our family. And this could be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. This can be whatever you want it to be. For me, monthly works out best. Every month I write, or closer to the end of the month, I showed this in my August reset, and which was my last video, and I will link that in the card so you can see our meal plan. But every month I start with just writing 1 through, for example, it's August, so 1 through 31 on a piece of paper, and I write down meal ideas on it. And for me, I do include leftover days, make your own days, kind of, and then I'll plug in like certain meals like tacos, chicken enchilada soup, because we've done that. I add in like random freezer meal ideas, like if I have a meal in the freezer and we could have that, or for example, sometimes a freezer meal for us is just chicken tenders and french fries and all that, and I do the 1 through 31 and I do our meals. Then I go through and I do my lunch meal prep, and for me I do 1 through 8 on that, because I like to do 2 meals per week for that. And sometimes I even plug in leftovers for that. Then I make sure I write down ideas for side dishes, and then I write down for ideas for breakfast and snacks. I didn't do that in the weekly or in our monthly reset because lately I've been baking a lot, and that's been covering our breakfast and our snacks. So I've been just writing in ideas for dinners, which is mainly what I meal plan. And then I meal plan my lunches, and for like the kids, lunches are Hot Pockets. I always make sure we have stuff for sandwiches or like just random stuff like that. It's summer, we don't need a whole lot, and we're getting back to school, then that's when I'll start worrying about lunches a lot more. But that's going to be in a separate back to school video, and I'm going to do a whole separate one on doing lunches and packing lunches. So yeah, but my first thing, like I said, it's just all about the time frame. For me, I like to do 1 through 31 and plan out a whole month. I don't necessarily have to buy everything for the whole month all at once, but I can if we need to. For me, it's more or less just writing down ideas, and then I plug in those ideas throughout a week or just throughout the month. I'll just look at that list and go, okay, so we haven't done this yet, and we'll do that. And how you do it, just make sure it works for you. Okay, but that leads me into number 2, which is determine your family favorites, your go-to meals, quick meals, crock pot meals, just everything. I have a recipe binder that is loaded with family favorites, holiday stuff that we only do on specific holidays, 30-minute meals, 15-minute meals, just quick things like that. And sometimes it's not stuff that needs a recipe. Like our family faves, like we do tacos a lot, or some version of a taco, pretty much every week. So I don't need a recipe for that stuff, but I do like to have a go-to list of family favorites that I can use on that. And then I take number 2 and plug it in. I take our family faves and I plug them in to our month for a meal plan. And half the time, that's why I do the time frame first, because like, am I meal planning for a week? Okay, well for a week I can say, I'll go to my list, okay, we can do tacos, we'll do chicken one night, we'll do lasagna or spaghetti, or then we'll have a leftover night depending on what we did, because there's always at least one leftover night. We always do at least one make your own night, and that could either be eating more leftovers or making like your own actual meal. And then like it just kind of make it work for you. Then number 3 is determine your emergency meals. And for me, my emergency meals usually include just something out of the freezer. Like, I always have at least one meal in the freezer at all times, like a bag of chili or a bag of spaghetti sauce or something like that. Or sometimes an emergency meal is just frozen chicken tenders or frozen pizza. And it is okay to have those, and honestly, I keep those things on hand because they make easy lunches, but it also makes a really easy emergency meal. Like if you're running late, like if you have sports, or like meet the teacher nights are coming up here and the schools are doing all their stuff, and then the town and community's doing all their stuff too. So those, and plus the kids still have to be kids, and then things come up. So I need emergency meals and quick meals, and a lot of times the first couple weeks of August are emergency meals or just really quick meals, and there is nothing wrong with that. I'm at this point of fed is best, and that's just how we roll in this house. Number 4 is determine your budget. How much do you want to spend on groceries? You could do this depending on when you get paid, is usually how you'll do this. Like if you get paid weekly, you might figure it out weekly. You get paid bi-weekly, you'll figure it out then. You get paid monthly, and yes, being paid monthly does happen. So occasionally that happens, but when a paycheck comes in, that's when we sit down and we figure out, okay, so I have this much money and I have to feed this many people, and this is what everything is costing. So this is my grocery budget, and then I figure out with that budget, what can I buy and what can I make.
It's the fake news.
And a lot of times, what can I buy and what can I make in this economy with grocery prices is something quick and inexpensive. And that also really depends sometimes on where you shop too. Okay, number 5 is then determine, like you've already determined your meals, so determine your meals and the nights you're actually going to make them. We do this weekly. Like every month we'll write down our ideas, and then after we've determined our budget, I go through and figure out, okay, what is everybody off this list, what does everybody want to eat this week? So like this week we've done, because yesterday was Sunday and we start our week on a Sunday, so this week we're doing chicken enchilada soup, which was last night. So, and that kind of throws in our little taco thing too. And then, and that's also, sometimes it's also our chicken night, but that really depends. Most likely we'll do a chicken tender night, just because we can and it's easy. We'll probably throw in a pizza. We'll throw in a leftover and make your own. So that's 5. Then we'll probably do some kind of spaghetti or chili or something. And then sometimes we just do by meat, and right now we have a lot of chicken. And then we'll probably also just have a sandwich night, and there's nothing wrong with that. If we have not, right now this family's just kind of clustered, and our actual week is messed up. So we don't know exactly what we're having every night, which I need to actually figure out probably tonight. But since we have the stuff to make everything on my list, or almost everything, then yeah. But I know for a fact we did chicken enchilada soup. We'll do a leftover night. We'll do a make your own night. Most likely with that. We'll probably do chili mac or just chili one night. We'll probably do sandwiches or Philly cheesesteaks if we get the shaved steak. We'll do pizza, because even if it's not frozen, even if it's an order out, then that's fine if we have the money for it. Sometimes we will just make it at home. And then yeah, I'll probably do a spaghetti night, and then we'll do a freezer meal night or a chicken tender night or something, and that'll take care of this week. So the next thing is then build your list and go to the store or have it delivered or whatever. And for us, that's kind of what it is. We go to the store probably once a week, maybe every week and a half. And when I build my list, if I'm meal planning, I go through and I add everything to that list. And then I'll go through and I'll shop our pantry and our freezer and our fridge and all that, and figure out what I don't need to buy, and I'll cross that off. And then I also try to remember to include breakfast items and lunch items and snacks and staple items. And then I always, if we have the money, I always add in a couple of extra items that can go into the freezer, the pantry, or the fridge. It'll stick around for a little bit, and we have it on hand if we need it, or in case one of our meals gets shifted and we decide to make something else, which that happens as well. And sometimes I even include sale items on this list, even if we're not going to use them immediately. If they are shelf stable or freezer stable, then we'll buy them if they're on sale. Number 7, this is talking after we get back from the store, is prep what you can. And this is really important when you have little kids, because it is easier for me to prep fruit and veggies ahead of time and just have it, where I can just pull it out of the fridge and give it to Nevaeh if she's walking around hungry. And Nevaeh is a grazer. I don't know if that's just normal for toddlers or if that's just my toddler, but I have found that if I have stuff out, she is more likely to eat it, and I'm also more likely to eat it myself. But that's kind of like one of those things. I prep it. And right now we have a garden, so a lot of stuff we are eating out of our garden, so it's right there anyway for us just to grab. But when we go to the store, we always try and prep what we can. I also try to do the same thing with meat. Like if we buy a big pack of chicken, I like to portion that out and put it in the freezer, so I don't have to do it later on. And I do the same thing with ground beef, so I don't have to mess with that later on either. Because if I can prep it when I first get home, then it's ready to go, and I'm more likely to want to use it, and I'm more likely to cook with it. And I also do this with breakfast items. Like if I make pancakes, I make sure I make enough so we can eat on it for a few days. Muffins, of course, last a few days. I do that with snack items too. I try not to prep a whole lot that's only good for 1 or 2 days unless I know it's going to be eaten in 1 or 2 days. Like the fruit goes, I only prep enough fruit for 1 or 2 days because it's gone in 1 to 2 days. But I do like to prep ahead, and it really helps when I'm making meals, or especially with just lunches and snacks. So I don't have to always spend the time cooking it because I don't have time for that. Number 8 is keep a running grocery list and include staple items on this list. Like there's always a list on our refrigerator of what we need. Like right now it's got freezer bags, sugar, coconut oil, random things like that on it. And I'll make sure I add a few of those items or all of those items onto our grocery list the next time I actually do an order or I actually go to the store. Because some of those are just staple items, others are actual things we're going to need in order to make meals. But I do try to keep a running grocery list, that way I'm not always going, well, what do we need, what do we need, what do we need, and having to go through everything when I'm actually making my list and ready to go to the store. Number 9 is don't be afraid of leftovers. I mentioned leftovers are part of our meal plan, and that's just how it works. For some people, it's not always part of it, and not every meal we make has leftovers, but I am not afraid of them, and we do eat them, and it helps. That way we don't have to cook every night, especially when it comes to, like, with all this back to school stuff coming up. I'm not going to want to cook. We're not going to have the time to cook a meal every night. So cooking a meal one night and having it again another night is perfectly fine with us. And that's also where emergency meals come into play as well. But we are not afraid of leftovers, so you shouldn't be either. And some things actually taste better the next day, like soups and chilies and stews and all that usually taste better the next day. And it's easy. If you've already made it, then eat it again. And some of that freezes really well too, and that's what I like, being able to take it out of the freezer and already having a meal. And that leads me into number 10, which is my final tip, which is prepare freezer meals. This can be like freezer crock pot meals. I know a lot of people do that. I don't, and then I probably need to get into that, but I just don't. And then there's specifically freezer meals for me are when I make chili or soup or something and I have leftovers, and we've eaten on it for a couple of days and we're just kind of over it. If we have leftovers, it goes in a bag, it goes in the freezer, and later on, when we need a quick meal, I'll pull that meal out of the freezer and cook it. Or I'll just heat it up. The same thing goes for, like, we'll make freezer lasagnas. When I make lasagna, I make two, one to eat that night and then one to go in the freezer. That way in a couple weeks or a month or so, when we need another meal, I can just go downstairs and pull out that lasagna. And that works too and that kind of can work as an emergency meal for us. But freezer meals are always a great thing. So, yeah. I know it was a lot to have thrown at you all at once, but these are my 10 favorite tips for meal planning that have actually worked for me and continue to work for me, which I love because they're actually tried and true and it works. So I hope you implement some of these, if not all of them, and they actually help you as well. But that's going to be it for my ultimate guide to meal planning for busy families. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the red subscribe button down below. I will have more like regular back to school content coming up in the next couple days or weeks. But yeah, so that's going to be it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I will see you, I think, Friday for my next video. Bye bye.